What's going on, guys? JR coming at you with probably the best, if not one of the best, weapons right now in Call of Duty Vanguard. Now, a lot of people have been having success with the STG-44. It's one of the guns you can unlock early in the game and level up quickly. But the Automaton is also one of the ones that's available very early and also quick to level up. And as it says right here, it is highly accurate with low recoil, which allows its assault rifle precision at long range. And I personally have been finding a lot of success with this weapon over the STG-44. And we're going to go into my class setup for this particular gun and why it's been so effective. So let's get into it. Alright, starting off first here we have the Muzzle. And I prefer this one, the MX Silencer. You get +1 sound suppression, +1 accuracy. You lose a little bit of the aim down sight speed, but this gun is pretty quick as it is. And keep in mind, this is going to be a mid to long range gun. So the ADS speed is going to be important, but not as important when you're talking about long range combat. So don't forget here now, let's check the weapon stats so we can see how the numbers are affected here. So you lose 4.1% for your aim down sight, which takes it down a little bit. But you gain a little bit of horizontal recoil control and concealment down there with 100%. So when you're shooting, the enemies won't be able to hear you or see you on the map, which is a really good thing. Next in line we have the barrel, which is the ZAC 600mm BFA. Makes it highly accurate and controllable and reduce the scope sway and gun bob. And I found this to be very effective. It's one of the options that you unlock early in the game, which is nice. You can see it's number one. But you do lose a little bit of sprint to fire speed with hipfire accuracy also included in that. But keep in mind, this is a mid to long range gun. So hipfire accuracy is not going to be all that important. And sprint to fire, while that is one of the most important aspects of the game, mid to long range, it's not going to be as important. So let's check the stat breakdown again here. So we lose 10% for your sprint to fire time. Still keeping it under the 300 mark, which is really good. But check out the horizontal recoil control. Plus 70%. You chop that number way down. Now, just for comparison's sake, let's take a look at the ZAC FA short. Look at that. That's going to give you 45.6 for the horizontal recoil control. So just by adding this first barrel on, the ZAC 600mm BFA, look how much recoil control you actually gain. And the idle sway control, you gain 44.6%. So these are huge numbers that's going to allow you to control this weapon while you're shooting. And as it says up top there, this barrel improves stability for accurate marksmanship, but is less flexible at close range. So this is going to be a mid to long range gun, and this attachment is going to affect that mid to long range gunfights. Keep in mind, you get up in close battle with this gun, it's still going to be effective because it has such a high rate of fire, but it's really meant for that mid to long range combat. Now for the optic, we're looking at the MK3 Sunfilter here. I know some people, they prefer the slate reflector or something with less magnification, but I find that the 1.5 times magnification works perfectly for me. And if you're engaging at that long range combat, it gives you just enough zoom where you can hit the enemy more so in the upper torso and the head, whereas with the other magnifications, it might not be as good. But this is a little bit flexible. If you like using an optic that has more of a zoom, feel free to use it, experiment here. This is just something that I prefer, that I find works really well for a little bit of close range combat as well as long range combat. So having those options, I feel, is a really good thing. The stock, we're going to go with the Anastasia padded. Now obviously you have the Empress broadsword up there, which is good, but I prefer this one. Padding helps control recoil during sustained fire and continuous fire, and at those long ranges, this gun shoots so fast you're going to have continuous fire. So you get the +1 accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, which is huge, and flinch resistance, which is extremely important at long range, right? Because if somebody is shooting at you from afar and actually making contact with you, you don't want your body and your gun to be jumping all over the place. You want to have as much flinch resistance as possible so you can sustain that fire. Up close, it's not that important, but when you're talking long range gunfire, it's going to be very important. Now you lose your initial accuracy, -1 in recoil, and then -1 for aiming stability. But that's not the end of the world. Right, let's check it out with the numbers here. You get 2.7% vertical recoil and plus 4.4% horizontal recoil. You lose 50% of your idle sway control, which is important, but you can make do without it. And you get a huge amount of flinch resistance at 10%. Next, we're going to go with Proficiency. And that's going to go with the Spotter attachment. Now, I think this is important because it reveals the enemy nameplate at range. So you get a +1 on that. When you're shooting at range, you want to be able to identify your enemies that are far away from you. If you try playing the game without this attachment, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to see those enemies because the maps are so large, and you can tell at range that the enemies look very small, and sometimes they're difficult to see. They're moving very fast. So this is going to allow you to see them just a little bit easier. In terms of your kits, really you can't go wrong here with anything. You know, fast melee is something that you could attach if you end up getting into those close quarter combats and you want to have good speed when it comes to your melee maneuvers. You could also go with your reach, which is increased melee range. And that's up to you. So either one of these I don't think is a bad option. I just prefer the fast melee just in case you get really close with somebody and you can give them a strike with your weapon and whatnot. In terms of the rear grip, the rubber grip has been very effective. You're talking about increased user control of their weapon, so you get +1 recoil control. Let's check the stat breakdown on that. 4.8% vertical recoil and 2.4% horizontal recoil. Again, look at these recoil numbers. They're very good. It's less than 50 for vertical and under 10 for horizontal. You'll see some of these other weapons classes where the recoil is much higher on both ends, and it makes it a little bit harder to control. With this, you're talking about mid to long range combat, so the less recoil you have, the more effective it's going to be. For magazines, I like to go with this one here, the 6.5mm Sankura 45 round mags. This weapon shoots fast. Let's check the stat breakdown here after we see the pros, which is +1 magazine ammo capacity, and the cons, which is a -1 aim down sight, -1 reload quickness, and a -1 movement speed. But again, we're going to be shooting mid to long range at enemies, so that's not going to be as effective, but we want the extra rounds, the extra magazine capacity, right? That's why this is so important. So you get +20 on that, going from 25 rounds to 45 rounds. Now you lose a little bit of your movement speed, your ADS gets minimized by a little bit, but look down there in the ammo section just how effective that is. +80% ammo capacity, +35% starting ammo, and +50% ammo capacity. That's huge. This gun shoots extremely quick. Look at the fire rate up top there, 833.3 RPMs. This gun is shooting a lot of rounds very quickly, so if you just leave it with the 25 round mags, you're going to probably kill one enemy, maybe two, before you have to reload again. And at that point, you're probably getting shot and getting killed. So the 45 makes it very effective for following up with multiple kills. So maybe you can kill 1, 2, 3, possibly even 4 enemies with the one mag, depending on, you know, how good your accuracy is. Next, we're going to go with the ammo type, and I prefer Frangible on here. Again, when it comes to mid to long ranges, when you hit the enemy from afar, and you don't have this on, you'll see that oftentimes they end up evading your attack and they duck away behind a wall or behind some form of cover or concealment, and you cannot finish off the kill, right? They're just moving so quickly at such a far distance. Adding this on slows them down a little bit, as you can see, because hitting enemy legs slows their movement down. So once you get that initial shot, you can follow up with subsequent shots and more than likely kill that enemy at distance, whereas without this on, he might get away from you. And it delays enemy healing, which is always nice, because if they try to stim shot themselves while they're evading you, obviously that's going to increase their health. This will help delay some of that. FMJ rounds is also very effective when you're talking about shooting through walls and different levels of concealment that aren't, again, super thick, like cover, like brick walls and stuff like that. But this would be effective at shooting through windows and just things that aren't super thick. So this is an option too, and I do like this one, but for this particular class setup, I'm going with the Frangible because I feel like it works best. Finishing it off here, we're going to go with the Underbarrel, which is the Carver Foregrip. You have plenty of options here for you. I might end up changing this up at some point, but being that you unlock it so early in the game, the Carver Foregrip gives you +2 recoil control and +1 hip fire accuracy, which you don't really need, but hey, I'll take it right now. Again, it's -1 aim down sight speed, but you're talking at such a long range that it's not going to be all that important. Let's take a look at the stat breakdown here. So you lose 4% aim down sight, but look at the vertical recoil and horizontal recoil control. That's +9.3 and a +2.5 in that order. So pretty good numbers there. Hip fire accuracy, you get a 3.3%, which isn't bad. But overall, it ends up working in your favor because the recoil control is down. And when you're talking about, again, mid to long range gunfire, guys, what's going to be so important here is that recoil control. okay? If your gun is jumping around too much at those ranges, you're not going to be able to stick on target, and you're going to miss a lot of your shots. So you want to keep the recoil down. Keep the flinch resistance up a little bit. And again, keep in mind that your sprint to fire and your aim down sight time do suffer here because these attachments affect it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to make as much of a difference because you're not going to run and gun with this weapon. Although, with the right attachments, you can definitely do that. It has such a high rate of fire that if you change some of the attachments to make it more of a close quarter gun, you will be able to run and gun a little bit more, very similar to an SMG. So that's about it for this class setup, guys. Here, I appreciate you tuning in. If you got any value or enjoyment out of this video, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, of course, share it with a friend or two, and return to the channel for more content as we're going to be dishing out more stuff as time goes on with this new Call of Duty Vanguard. Appreciate you guys stopping by, and we'll catch you guys and gals in the next one. Take care. Have a good one.